Welcome to the Concierge CPA podcast. I have two special guests today. I have Mary McDonald and I have Brian Streig.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So I'm really excited to have y'all on because I want to hear all about the first ever tax Twitter retreat. It was Denver, Colorado, and it was August, what dates?
The 11th and 12th. I know that I really got involved with tax Twitter kind of around 2020, 2019-ish, but especially when COVID hit and then Congress changed everything for us. And I was working in a very small firm. There was my boss and myself as CPAs. And so with all of the changes, really needing help understanding everything that was happening, and tax Twitter just became my lifeline. And I developed some real relationships there, which seems really weird to say about Twitter. I know that there were times when I would be telling our front office person, hey, I'm getting a phone call from this person. I don't know their real name. So if they ask for me, or if they ask for accounting as art, that one's for me, and it's okay. With those relationships then developing, kind of came this idea that we should all get together. We should get together and hang out. We should do this. Dan Heron really kind of stepped up, and he and I had been joking about it a lot. And so he's like, all right, let's do it. Let's plan this. And then Allison McLeod stepped in with the two of us, and the three of us sat down and just kind of said, all right, let's figure out what people want. What people really wanted this time was a space to get together and some time to do it. So let's create that. And when we started, we figured if it was the three of us, we were going to have a blast. When we opened up registration, there were first three people who registered were not the three of us. Figured, all right, we're going to have 6. This is fantastic. This is going to be great. We figured 10 would be outrageous. Our stretch goal was 30. So we kind of planned to have 30 people. We had done a poll. We had gotten about 50 people who said they'd be interested. We kind of did a little bit of like the wedding math was like, roughly 2/3-ish around. So we planned for 30. Yeah. We had a venue that held 40, so we thought would be good. By the time all was said and done, we had 77 people registered. So it just kind of, people were really interested and happy to come out. We scrambled a little bit to make everything work out, told people to lower expectations, but all is said and done, I look back on it and I'm just absolutely astounded and overwhelmed. It was incredible to get all these people together. We figured we had about 65 people who showed up to at least one of the events that were happening throughout the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. So unfortunately, I was in Turks and Caicos with my fam, so I couldn't make it.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. We were able to sponsor one of the sessions, which was fun, and then keep track of everything happening on Twitter, which there was a fire, and then, what was all this drama and gossip stuff happening? Tell us some insider scoop.
The biggest thing was just understanding that we have all of this hugely diverse group of people coming together and trying to figure out the best way for people to communicate with each other and hang out. Full disclosure, right? Dan and Allison and I all do taxes. We're not event planners.
Well, maybe 3 mini conferences for certified concierge accountant, and it is a beast. Like, it's a full-time job
insane.
For months. Yeah. So,
yes.
Bless you.
Thank you. I think we got super lucky. My biggest takeaway is just communication. So we had a great little venue. First day, it was a sweet little house, and we were able to have 2 groups, and we split people up, and it kind of worked out, and we had this kind of natural flow. The second day, so the first day we ended up with a panel talking about how we can look at our profession differently, different things to think about in terms of our pipeline and how do we take care of ourselves. We kind of focused on people in the morning, and then we had a great presentation by Dave Kersing from Capivario, who talked about co-firming and collaborating and referrals and just other ways that we can think outside of our office box. And then Saturday was really a much more technical day. So we had, and I'm super proud of this too, we had a panel for tech. Every person on our tech panel was female. So we had a woman-led tech panel, which was awesome. Nice. And then in the afternoon, we had a diversity and inclusion panel, which was also just absolutely wonderful. Both of those had some technology needs that we weren't able to meet in the house. And so the room that we had for that, which had a screen and we were able to hook things up to, was very small and tight and didn't have a lot of flow. And we ended up doing 1 session instead of 2, and we didn't have a really good way of communicating all of that. Everybody was super gracious about it. And I actually do have slides and presentations to send out to folks once I get my head around not working full time. I think that communication was the biggest. Accountants do what they're told. You just have to tell them.
Well, and I missed actually most of those presentations. Thursday, I missed the happy hour thing because I was shopping. Friday afternoon session, I had to miss to go shopping for the pizza party on Friday night.
Oh, Oh, okay. So you were working.
I was working, yes.
So has a date been set for the retreat? Has a place been set? Give us the scoop.
So we are in the process of trying to formalize the retreat and create an entity that will be it, that when we are done, we can pass it on to next year's leadership to kind of manage it. But the goal is to really make this inclusive and collaborative, and even including where is it going to be. So we've got a few weekends that we're looking at in July. I think we've all agreed that the Friday, Saturday worked really well because you kind of got 4 days, but you only had to miss 2 days of work and be out of the office. Probably that same kind of setup. And locations, we've done a few polls, and we're going to, once we narrow down the date, then we're going to focus on the location, like, what's available in different cities. And so that's kind of the next step. We're actually meeting Friday to kind of figure out like those logistics, and we've had people sign up that are interested in volunteering and kind of told us what they're interested in helping us with. So our goal is to have some committees so that it doesn't fall onto any one person's back to do all the heavy lifting, and spread that around to the people that are interested in helping. So it'll be inclusive and collaborative and something fun that everybody has that can contribute to it.
Who is the leadership team for this next year?
So it is Arume, Nicole Davis, Catherine, her Twitter is Sparkle Cake, me, and Atlanta Tap. Yeah, so Ashley up in Washington is also helping.
I love the fact that you had diversity and inclusion panel. What was the key insight that people got out of that?
It was an interesting one. I've never put one on in that manner. There were 4 of us, and we each took like DEIB, so diversity, inclusion, equality, and belonging. And each one of us talked about one of those aspects to bring it all together and share our stories. And so it made it really an interesting kind of way of presenting that and letting people know kind of what it is, why it's important to us. A lot of people were just seemed to get a lot out of it, and so it made it special. I was inclusion and talked about being included and having to struggle to find your way to your people, your tribe, and people like Mary that kind of build you up. So it was nice. It was fun.
Sitting in the room with this one, the room was packed. The way that the 4 of them presented, so Rume, Brian, Josh Youngblood, and then Ashley were the 4 people presenting in that one. Because it was very personal for them, everybody in the room was able to accept that kind of vulnerability without getting defensive around it. So it didn't come across as you're not being inclusive, you're not being diverse kind of a thing. It was, here's how we see it, here's what we are feeling, and people were really able to take that away. So it really became, the word that's coming to my brain right now is kind. It felt like a very kind presentation in the way it was given and the way that it was received.
Brian, do you think there's a big difference between the Dallas culture and the Austin culture?
I don't think there's not a big difference between Dallas and Austin. There is between Fort Worth and Dallas and Fort Worth and Austin.
I like what you just said about, you essentially in different words are saying like you need to be your authentic self, right? No matter what that is. And I personally am kind of working through that myself in regards to like, I have a lot to say around mental health. And it's taken a long time for me to be able to come out and say that. I come from a very mentally ill family structure. And I am just like recording a video about it, and I don't know if I'll release it or not. But like you realize like how you feel so disconnected from yourself because you are portraying yourself as one thing, and I look like I've got it all together and all this stuff, but like we all have our struggles, right? And if we can just be more transparent about those and more vulnerable about those, then we can support each other better, right? It's not like we're trying to go out to attack. Well, some people are, but screw them, right?
Exactly. Well, and I think there's nothing more isolating than feeling like you're the only person struggling with something. And we live in such a social media focused culture where everything is perfect and that's all you see because I've propped out all of the bad stuff. So here's just my happy little face. And you don't see the mess behind me and the despair over the returns that need to get done and all the rest of it. And it's really isolating. So as soon as you find out that you're not the only one, there's such a sense of relief. Apparently we're all human. We all struggle with these things and it's okay. It doesn't make me a bad person. It just means I'm struggling right now.
Yeah, for sure. So what are like some ways that people can make sure sure that they are respecting D&I type initiatives or policies. Were there any like cool things that people were doing in their firms that came out of the retreat, or otherwise?
One of the things I really liked that we talked about was Adam is taking people with mental illness or physical challenges and bringing them into his office and able to start doing easy tax prep and really giving them an avenue of something professional and something meaningful and financially rewarding that they can do.
Just saw an article about how the accounting force is embracing more neurodivergent people in the workforce as well. So that was really interesting. I love that. That's really cool. I know that from a super simple perspective, but something I don't see a lot is like from literally like the first job ad out there, we always put at the bottom, like, we are, diverse and inclusive, and we want diversity in our group. We just want to like throw it out there from the get-go. Like, this is what we're looking for. We support everything. I think that would be nice if more job ads stated a little bit more about maybe people's general core values, but in that area too.
Well, and I think our clients start looking for that in terms of like, what are we putting out there? Are they receptive to it? Do they support the same issues that we do? And I think that draws them, that helps us have a stronger, better connection with our clients because we share those same core values. And you don't have that, it almost kind of repels people that you don't share core values with, so you don't have that dissonance. I mean, we've all had to work with people that have a different core value than us. Right? You don't want that. And it's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the client. And so I think putting it out there helps the clients find the people that they are going to resonate better with.
What was another nice topic that y'all did at the retreat?
During our people panel on that first morning, we had Randy Crabtree, who was on there, and we helped him focus around burnout and how we can take better care of ourselves, because I think that's another issue along with our pipeline issue. Everybody looks at us and says, why would I want that lifestyle? And we kind of look at it and say, why do I want this lifestyle?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, I choose this. Why do I choose this?
Right.
So just to kind of remember, the little things, take a break, go for a walk, meditate, sit, just those reminders and I really liked his approach to it, which was, we're in our profession because we want to help, right? We're natural helpers. We may not know the best way to communicate that, but realistically, we're here to help people. And as a result, we tend to take on too much. And so we're not really good with our own boundaries. And so reminding ourselves to set those boundaries and to take care of ourselves. And then as we do that, the rest of it kind of falls into place. Remember when my first job out of college was at a Big Four firm, and it was grind. It was the, 100, 120 hours a week. And I watched my work quality suffer because I'm sleeping for an hour or 2 hours before I take a shower and go back to work. And it sucks, right? And you're looking at this kind of going, that's a stupid mistake, right? And it is, but you made it when you were exhausted. And we have this idea that the harder we push ourselves, the more we can get done. And in reality, what we need to do is stop so that we can work better instead of working more and making those mistakes. So I think that was a really good reminder for people too, especially we tried to time the retreat in such a way that we're done with the first season. The second season isn't starting quite yet. So just to kind of have that reminder, how do we take care of ourselves as we go through the rest of this year? And then how do we do it as we go into next year?
Yeah, very cool. So there's kind of this cheat sheet of policies going around Twitter right now of things that firms do that seem so ridiculously basic, but that are so important, like having a specific cutoff date before you file returns, or having a certain turnaround time, having all projects transparent to the client. It would be so cool, I think, if we just had this full-on cheat sheet of here's what you need to think about for next year before you get to next year. Because that's the problem with boundaries, is if you don't set them early, you feel guilty, and then you don't enforce them.
Exactly.
If you don't respect them and enforce them, your clients won't, because they will definitely push you to stretch that boundary to accommodate something that they want done.
And then if you happen to be, Minnesotan and passive aggressive, it turns into, I'm not answering your phone call. It's the feeling, right? I still return the phone calls. I don't want people to think I'm never returning phone calls, but I have that feeling of I don't want to.
Well, it's twofold because it's the policy and expectation you have of yourself, but also a boundary because it's like,
right.
I'll return an email on the same day to anybody. That's our policy, but I'm not going to have all the answers that day, right? But I'll at least acknowledge that I do. And then it's about training the client in the fact that like this is going to take time, or what's an appropriate date that we can maybe talk about this or whatnot. Can y'all think of like a particular policy like that you each have in your offices that you think has been really helpful?
So this year we did kind of implement for the first season, right? It was stuff had to be in by March, I think we said 17th this year, in order to have real potential for getting filed on time. If it was after that, it was going to be extended. And that took a lot of pressure off of us to, for those last minute clients, because you want to help them, right? And it's like, oh, this is easy this year. And all right, but this was our cutoff date. And so this is what we need to do because we have to protect our staff too. So that one was really good. We're kind of in transition here and we're going to be switching some software around. Those firm-wide policies make a big difference.
We did the cutoff dates and that has helped a lot. So the spring, most of our clients are good about extending. A lot of the businesses are audited and the audits aren't even completed yet. So, we can't even start them. We do like tax provisions and extension calculations for them. And then most of our individuals are the owners of those businesses. So they're also used to extending because they have flow through income that's not ready. So the spring has never been too crazy for us. It's always on the back end because everybody's human and wants to procrastinate and not deal with it as long as they can. So dates in the summer really became critical where we extended it from a 4-week kind of window to 6 weeks. So August 1st for September 15th deadline and September 1st and early this week, I'm getting some stuff in, but for October 15th. So that we're not, like Mary kind of mentioned, overworking our staff. We have to make sure that we don't lose them. It's a lot harder to find a staff that, replace a staff that gets burnt out than one client.
Hiring is miserable. So our firm, we're up in Duluth and we had a staff member who's in Florida. And then we've got another one who works from home full time. So this year we had implemented just a weekly huddle. It was a half an hour. Our office manager took it on. She starts us off with a 60-second mystery and she ends us with trivia. But then we get a chance as a firm to kind of get together and actually see each other, right? We've got this weekly huddle on screen. Everybody's there. Recently, she had been having kudos. So we were able to congratulate each other on things. But she actually just put in little wins in this last one so that she made us around the room, around the Zoom, right? And everybody had to give something that was just a little win, right? And it was amazing just how fun it was to see what successes people are having.
That's super cool. Yeah, it's kind of like the Traction EOS concept. They have like the L10 leadership meetings weekly, and you kick off with a personal and professional win. In regards to huddles, I'm totally with you on that. We started this year doing a daily morning huddle, it's like 8:30 to 8:45. We just say, what was the top thing we accomplished yesterday? What's the top thing we want to accomplish today? And what's any blocker? And it helps hold even me accountable because,
Sure.
as CEO and visionary, you're like, so I really am enjoying the huddle concept. I used to resist it. I was like, I don't want to be required to go to a meeting every day, right? But I think it is really helpful, especially in a remote environment. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We do that twice a week where Tuesdays and Friday mornings we have a week,
Nice.
Tax department meeting, not office wide because there's 20 people and that would be too insane. But the 5 of us in the tax department meet twice a week, and one of our employees, she did her internship with us and stayed on as a part-time employee. So we move it around according to her class schedule and workload and that type of thing, because she's supposed to work max 20. And it's pretty much like, you just give us as much time as you have available. As long as your grades don't suffer, you can work as much as or little as you want. And sometimes I have to remind her to, this isn't your full-time job. School is. Don't let us interrupt that progress that you're making in school. So
that's awesome.
But it's fun to get everybody together. She tells us about her classes and what she's learning. And we hear about, one of my staff has kids that are in baseball, and we hear about their games and, just different stuff like that. It makes it fun and personal since we're all remote and we all work from home. it kind of helps us keep those connections.
Yeah, for sure.
That's something I think that our profession, people look at accountants and we're supposed to be isolated, right? We're supposed to be in our little silos. This is what we do. We don't talk to other people. We're not full human beings, but we are. And we have lives and we have enjoyment outside of tax, strangely enough, for some people. And so to understand that and to be able to build on that and to know that and to see those things grow and to be excited for each other is really cool. And that it helps to humanize us, which I think is something our profession has been missing.
When you mentioned staffing, I'm curious what your take is on this, because obviously we've been going through a crisis over the last couple of years. Someone told me the other day, not in the accounting industry, but in general, that like things tend to be evening out. And I was like, I really feel like we see that at all.
I see a lot of, and I think I've seen it quite a bit on tax Twitter, is people are letting go of clients rather than working and burning out or having to bring on people, especially if it's not a good fit. That old model of you're kind of measured by your revenue. Well, no, because I can have a big revenue, but a bunch of expenses from payroll, and I'm still got the same net income as a smaller shop that isn't like stressing out as much. So I think that's kind of what I'm seeing, or is that, hey, we're going to focus, we're going to niche, we're going to take care of the right clients. And if you're not a right client, you're not going to stay around if you're causing us headaches.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I went through kind of, 3 purges. So, when I first niched into tax strategy back in 2016, I sold 60% of my clients. That was amazing. Sold like 50% of my clients last summer and then ended up selling them all in the fall. But that's one of the best experiences of my life that I could just go on and on and on about to people that are feeling so bogged down. They're looking at it as a very black and white thing, like I'm disappointing these people, I'm letting them down, I'm their savior. But that's not the case, because I ask everyone at the end of the day, are you really bringing your all to the table for this client? And they say no, because they're burnt out, right? And so the best thing for that client is for you to hand them off to somebody else, and hopefully maybe even do a sale so that you can hand select that next person and hand off the clients, train them up, have a really nice, strategic partnership and relationship. I know that's not possible for everybody across the nation. There are some areas that they're like, there's just no one that would buy my clients here. I was so upset. One of my coaching students didn't tell me she had talked to a broker in California that told her it wasn't worthwhile to sell $500,000 of annual revenue. So she just fired those clients. And that's quick to sell, because again, you can control the entire situation and make sure that they're going to someone good. So don't take anyone's advice when they say don't sell. What can we expect from next year? Do you think the format will be pretty similar? Do you think there were some lessons learned or a topic missing that you're like, we got to make sure we talk about this?
I think right now it's in that kind of brainstorming mode, but I think there are some topics. I mean, we're definitely going to include some type of DEI. It might not be the same. It might be bringing in somebody else that has a unique perspective on it. We are trying to get somebody in that is blind, and she couldn't make it at the last minute. She had to cancel. But I would like to get Taylor out there and tell her experience in working in the accounting field as a blind person and the challenges that she has and how she kind of has to work around them or find accommodations, but also how she just makes it work. And she's just that kind of a person. So something like that would be, I think, fun and insightful and enlightening to people. Obviously technology, I'm mentally I've got a placeholder open for whatever new tax legislation is giving us the biggest pain in the butt at the time. Good. Because there's gonna be something we don't even know about yet. That's gonna be that thing.
Yep.
Well, we all have to plan those blocks for the crap that's coming, right? Like, I think that's one of the biggest problems when we don't kind of plan ahead we know there's always going to be problems. There's always going to be the IRS interrupting stuff. So just block some time next month, the month after to train up on whatever that crap is, right?
Right.
I hear though that there's really not going to be a whole lot of new legislation coming soon, but it's more going to be focused around the 2025 sunset provisions, which sounds nice, but of course they'll probably throw us for a loop. And
I was gonna say, is it really going to?
Yeah.
Or, some of them will and some of them won't, but we won't find out until December 29th. And
Yeah, but I think back on the TCJA stuff, it was fond memories for me because I love learning and I love being challenged. And so I was like, oh, there's so much cool new stuff here. And I was able to teach a lot of things about it. And I really like talking about PBI and stuff like that. So it's all about the way that you look at it, right? How you
absolutely
optimize it for your clients, right?
Yeah, if it's a drag for you, if it's something that isn't fun or interesting, there's no way you're going to be able to make it interesting for anybody else, right? But
Sure.
If you can get excited around it, if you can find the good piece in all right, this is something that I get to teach my clients, this is another way I get to provide value, another way I get to help them out, then it gets to be a little bit of a boost. Plus, there's also as every conversation goes into billing, right? There's also hey, you know what? This was more expensive for me to do, so it's going to be more expensive for you.
Piece of tax legislation gives us a reason and excuse to increase our fees because it just takes that much more time and effort.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't blame me, blame Congress.
Right. It's like my hands are tied. My hands are tied. I'm just the messenger, right? Although
Exactly.
you expect us to be the healthcare consultant, the counselor,
Oh, seriously.
we're
I'm pretty sure
everything.
we should all have just honorary doctorates in therapy because
I know.
It's-
But again, like you said, Mary, we love helping people. And so we kind of secretly love the fact that we get to be all those things sometimes.
Oh my gosh. Some of my best days are when I've got the widow in front of me. I still remember she was a new widow. She had a place that her husband had built in their backyard for their kids. And now her grandkids were grown, right? But the place that was still sitting there was a new family that had moved in across the street from her. She really wanted to give them the playset, and she just needed somebody to tell her it was okay.
Aww.
It's like, yes, you can give them the playset. That's fine. You don't have to sell it to them. You can just give it. It's totally fine. And she was so excited, and the kids across the street were so excited. And it just, it's those little things that are pieces of everybody's lives that sometimes we forget about. But when we get to help somebody like that, the smile on her, that was like one of the best days. It's like, I gave permission for a playset to be moved.
Yeah.
Like you said, sometimes she needed to hear that, and
She needed to hear it.
You were the right person to tell her.
So I always love to ask guests, what is your favorite book of all time that listeners should drop everything, make sure that they've read, or it could be a speech or a TEDx talk. What's influenced you that you would recommend to our viewers?
Mostly I read fiction, which is wonderful. It's my escape. People watch movies, they watch TV. I read my little trashy novels, but I did just read the other day, this one. So Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits, I have a love-hate relationship with because you read it and you're like, this is so simple. Really? How is this so simple? But it's so impactful if you actually just do those small changes. So
Exactly.
It's one of those things that you need to continue to revisit and expand on and not just brush off as these simple concepts, right?
Right. Yeah. In fact, reading through it, it's like, well, this is so basic. This is so easy. And those are the things that we forget about. It doesn't have to be life-changing to be important. Just like if I can get my clients to not use opening balance equity, that would be great. It's a little thing. It's a little thing. It's those little things. And instead of, it's eating the whale a bite at a time or eating the elephant a bite at a time. But doing it consistently. That one helped me reground things because I have a tendency to be an all or nothing. I'm either all in, I'm exercising 7 days a week for an hour at a time, or maybe I'm just, putting my shoes on.
That's exactly what I got out of it too, Mary, because I was like, oh, I didn't exercise like I wanted to this last week, I give up, but it's It's not about giving up. It's about spending the 5 minutes on it today so that tomorrow you can feel like you can do 8 minutes, right?
Right,
I hate
exactly.
working out, by the way. I hate it.
Yep.
So that's awesome. I love that, Mary. What about you, Brian?
So I like Atomic Habits too. I'm about halfway through it. I keep getting distracted, but one of my favorites recently is John Garrett's Watch Your And
Yes.
Because I resonate with, I feel like I try to show, make sure people know what my ands are, and I like knowing what theirs are. So to me, that book really resonates, and I try to think about how to get people to share those and feel comfortable sharing their ands.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay, so I haven't read that one yet. I have heard of it, and I don't remember what the and means. So we've got start with your why, like Simon Sinek stuff, right? So what is the and?
It is kind of the same, but it's your personal. So, I like to cook, so I shouldn't be afraid to talk about that at work and tell my coworkers, what I'm doing. I mean, they smell it when I heat it up in the microwave. So, I mean, it might as well be open about it. Hey, we like to cook, and here's what we did last night. But it's those types of things. Or you like to go to concerts, and you talk about it at work, and you let people know, hey, I like this kind of music. I go to these concerts, and you find similarities of somebody else who's like, oh, I never really thought about talking about that, but I like those things too. Those kind of ands that make you a full person.
That's cool, because it's so easy to put ourselves in this box of like this is who I am. I'm an accountant, and it's just like you've got to have other stuff. You've got to have other stuff, yep. Even if it is all of your passion and purpose.
And if you only identify as one thing, if what you do is how you identify, I can't tell you how many retired doctors don't know what to do with their lives now. I'm a physician, and now I'm a retired physician. I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah, that's a big fear, I think, of why so many accountants don't ever retire, because that's become their entire life, right? And they don't know what to do with themselves. I feel like I've kind of gone through a bit of a crisis going from accounting firm owner of 12 years to tax software developer and coach. I'm like, who am I? I have no idea, but
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, try to catch that before you let it go, so that you can find other things that make you happy, right?
You can be a whole person outside of your office.
Awesome.
Well, and part of that is also talking about it. So making sure your coworkers or your clients know that, because you never know. They may look at you as an accountant. In the back of their minds, they know you've got a life outside of the office, but they look at you, they're dealing with you as in the accounting function, but it helps build a connection if they know that, I also like to go hiking in the Greenbelt and take my dogs to swim in the lake. And, it's like those little things that help you create like a true relationship rather than just a transactional kind of thing.
Yeah, and from the opposite perspective, as you're saying that, I'm thinking letting them know you're a real human being also means I do not like getting emails at 9 p.m. that ask me if their return's going to be done in an hour. I'm a real human being here. And so I think that's also a good way to go back to establishing those boundaries and expectations of I have things that I want to do with my life too. I'm not just sitting around waiting for your paperwork,
Right. One of the scariest things to do is to actually put in your out of office what you're really doing, right? I'm going on vacation for the next 2 weeks. I won't be available, or I'm celebrating my birthday tomorrow, so I won't be in the office. Little things that tell them about your life. And it's amazing, but to come back to people who understand that you were gone, I'm on vacation for the next 2 weeks in Hawaii, I won't be available. Cool. You come back and people are like, hey, how was Hawaii? There's that grace period around. I don't expect you to be jumping right back into things. I just need to have this conversation with you, versus I'm not available for the next 2 weeks. I'll get back to you when I can. Then there's this, I don't know what you were doing. It doesn't really matter. You're not a real person. I want my stuff tomorrow.
Right. And then also health issues. I see people not mentioning those things. And if you just let people know that you had COVID or whatever, they're going to empathize a lot more with you versus expecting so much out of you. I just recorded, I don't think we've released this podcast episode yet, but shiny object syndrome.
I know, I'm sorry. It was the orange people driving by. My bad.
Brian's going to bring us back in, buddy. It was something about with boundaries at work, but yeah, I don't know. When I think of it, I'll bring it up. It's out of office emails. Oh my gosh. So I have a permanent out of office email. Mary, you probably saw it when we were recording.
I have, yeah, I love it.
So I don't know if you saw the latest iteration, but it literally says, email no longer brings me joy.
I haven't seen that one, but I love it.
Not me checking it, but my assistant checks it twice a day, and she will alert me if it's important, and you can also respond and tell me if it's an emergency, and we will make sure and prioritize it for you. But I just got to this point this year where I was like, I'm done. I'm done with email. I'm done with it controlling me. I put a ton of boundaries around it and tried not to check it myself. And it still would just get out of control when I went on vacation and stuff like that. And so I am that shiny object person. And so I'll get an email about some event coming up and be like, oh, I have to participate in that, or I have to do this, or I need to read this. And now I don't get all that junk, like hundreds of things a day of new ideas that I need to do. And it's just too much. One of the simplest things I did was just turn off the auto notifications of emails on my phone. Then like you don't see that you just got 5. You control when you go into that email app and check it. And there's power in that, right?
There is power in that. That's it. I'm reclaiming my power.
Yes, you do that, Mary. I love it. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to have to wrap up. I could probably talk to y'all all day, but I know you probably have extended season stuff to do. How can people reach out? And I do appreciate your time 2 weeks before a big deadline. How can people reach out if they're interested in the Twitter retreat, or would it be just following you on Twitter? Tell everyone your handles and stuff like that.
So I'm C Bryan TX or C Bryan CPA. Got a website. We've got that. I'm pretty much that everywhere. C Bryan CPA. Charles is my first name. You know, they were rolling out emails, but Brian was already taken, so I got C Bryan, and that was how I kind of got started. So we have a tax Twitter retreat. If you Google it, the website will come up. Follow us. Respond, like talk to us online, because that's what it's there for. It's a community, and I think we all get along really well and have a great time bantering back and forth with each other.
How would someone get plugged into this community? I mean, is it as easy as starting to use the tax Twitter hashtag? Or I mean, how do you recommend that people are like, I want to be part of this, but I'm an outsider, you know?
So I would say definitely, the tax Twitter hashtag is going to be the easiest way to find us. I'm accounting as art. And I know that there are people who are lurking and they're afraid to say things. I'm sassy and salty and sarcastic. And so I sometimes come across as brash, and I apologize. I sort of apologize for that. I don't apologize for that. But really, I started by just asking questions. And there really aren't any stupid questions. They feel stupid, but they're not. So, ask a question, hop in, chime in. I think one of the easiest ways to get started is on Fridays. We have Friday wins. Post a win. People are always paying attention to that.
Okay. Because I don't get on social on Fridays, but
You've got good boundaries, Jackie.
I know, I do. I have very strict boundaries, but that's the only way I can live life, y'all. Taxtwitter.info is where your retreat information is. So right now it's, of course, everything from 2023, but eventually maybe springtime, maybe we'll have new updates.
Oh, I think I would hope by the end of October. I mean, once we get past the October deadline, I think we'll have time and that will be a fun distraction to like recover from, get done with taxes. Let's do something fun and get